Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Tonight I'm going to do the NFL. The NFL, along with various other sports, are obviously bringing in mandatory minority and or female coaches to take positions. And here's my problem with this, okay? I have no problem with thinking that, hey, we need to look for applicants to fill a certain role. I worked in the tech industry. I worked for a company that was a Fortune 500 networking company, and they were very excited anytime a woman applicant applied because they said, hey, we want diversity. Anytime someone that was not Asian and or Caucasian, they said, hey, whether it was Latino or black or whatever, they said, hey, this is great. We're excited to have this person apply because we'd like the diversity on the team because people come from different backgrounds, have different life experiences, have different ways of problem solving and looking at issues. And I'm fine with that. I think that's great. However, once we interviewed the applicant, we still took the best person for the job, no matter their background or anything else. We still took the best person for the job. Well, that apparently doesn't matter anymore. Now it's all about, you just have to have a woman or you just have to have a minority or whatever. You got to fill this role with that type of person. Doesn't matter if they're the best or not. And so what this does is it means that the bar is lower for certain people. And that also means that if they get the position, did they get it because that they're a minority or a skin color or a female or something else? Or did they get it because they were actually the best person for the job, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Well, here we have the NFL going woke, and they're now requiring teams to hire women or minorities as coaches. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know of a lot of women that play football, and especially a lot of women that play football at the collegiate and or NFL level. I think the number actually is 0. They tried a kicker in one of the college teams for, I think, a season, and she only kicked once, and I don't think she did very well. So, but now they've decided, well, you've got to hire a woman for these positions. And here's the thing. Maybe this makes me a jerk, but when I watch NFL and I see sideline commentators that are women, if they know the sport, if they know what's going on, if they're on top of their game, I'm fine watching it. But if you're putting them there, and a lot of times they put them there because they look good, but if you're putting them there just to fill a quota and they're not the best at their job, I'll tell you right now, especially NFL fans they're not going to be interested. If all of a sudden you say, hey, you know what, last year your team was X and X, and this year they fell off a cliff because of the new coaching, then all you're going to do is enforce a stereotype that women cannot coach. Well, they say the NFL Football League has set forth new diversity. This is from NPR, which is left-leaning, and inclusion efforts for the 2022 season at its annual owners meeting, such as requiring its 32 teams to employ a female or member of an ethnic or racial minority as an offensive assistant, the league said in a statement. Candidates must have at least 3 years of collegiate or professional experience in coaching football. These persons will receive a 1-year contract with salary and benefits, the organization announced. So now you're going to have to, number one, say, okay, a female has to have 3 years collegiate or professional experience. Well, if there aren't any coaches that are female right now, what's going to happen? The NFL says, well, we can't fill it with women because there's not enough collegiate female coaches. And they're going to say, okay, well, let's get some female coaches in at the college level. How many women are playing football in college? None. How do they get their coaching experience? Well, they get hired probably, and they're an armchair quarterback just like any other guy would be, and they decide to coach. I cannot see how this turns out good for the college and for the NFL. They say the roles for the NFL will reimburse teams up to $200,000 in 2022 and $205,000 in 2023 from a league fund for coaches. So in other words, the NFL is going to pay for it directly. In recent years, head coaches had predominantly had offensive backgrounds, the NFL said. We believe this resolution will assist greatly in continuing to source and identify diverse candidates earlier in their career, providing pipeline depth and further developing the diverse offensive pipeline. Yada, 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 blah, blah, placate, placate. According to league data, the percentage of people of color in coaching positions increased from 35% in 2020 to 39% in 2021. Now, here's what's interesting. If you look at the overall population, that's pretty representative of the minorities here in the United States. So I think they're pretty accurate. But I do believe, I think the NFL is a little bit more, it does have a little bit more black members than white, but I'm not sure on that. You'd have to double check me. They said during that time, the number of minority general managers increased from 5 to 7. Number of minority assistant general managers went from 3 to 6, while the number of minority of defensive coordinators went from 13 to 15. While the increases noted above as a positive step, our diversity numbers are stagnant in the head coach and special teams coordinator roles and have slightly declined in the offensive coordinator role. So now they're basically sitting there and going, well, we can only go to one direction. If we slip backwards, well, we're not as diverse, we're not as strong. Well, what happens to when there's maybe good or better coaches that maybe are not minorities? Well, they're going to be passed over. And this is the oppression Olympics. This is the minority Olympics. This is the fill a quota Olympics. And that's what we're going for. So now it's no longer if you're the best. It's no longer if you're the most qualified. It's we're going to have to fill roles because. And I'd like to hear, I know I have many different nationalities and backgrounds and colors that watch my content. I'd like to know if you guys, if you're happy with this and saying, hey, I'm glad that they're opening the doors a little wider and now just making a position only fillable, or does that make you feel like the token guy? Does that make it feel like, well, I'm just given the job because of the color of my skin, and does that mean that this is a bad thing? I genuinely cannot speak to this because I don't know. So I'd love to hear from some of you guys out there and know how you feel about this. But the fact that they're opening it up and now saying, well, you've got to either be a woman or a person of color because you're a minority, how are we balancing that? Well, a black guy as a coach is only okay or is qualified as a woman who may or may not have even played football in her life. Like, this is, it becomes where you're checking off boxes, and it no longer matters if you're the best person for the job. And what happens with this is they're going to hit a certain point where they'll say, well, our quotas are full. I'm sorry, we can't even interview for you for the position, and so you're out. But what do they what qualifies you as a minority? You know, when President Biden decided to fill the Supreme Court nominee, he said only a black woman, period. That's it. So if you're Asian, you're out. If you're Latino or Latina, you're out. If you're any other, you're just out. So that means you don't even get looked at for the job. At what point does this make people go, you know what, I forget it, I just give up? They say the NFL will now consider women for all qualifying roles under its Rooney Rule, an initiative established in 2003 in which at least 2 external minorities must be interviewed for head coaching positions and 1 minority must be interviewed for a coordinator job. Before, women could only satisfy the requirement for positions such as club president and senior executive. NFL teams are currently submitting their diversity, equity, and inclusion plans for the 2022 season. Some initiatives include diverse recruiting, DEI education and training, hired head of DEI, pay equity analysis, the league said. Statement also said the league would highly regard the inclusion of people from diverse backgrounds when evaluating prospective ownership groups. So what just blows me away with this is that, again, it's now about bean counting, number counting. This is kind of the socialist way of looking at the world. We have to fill certain quotas. It doesn't matter if you want the job or not. Doesn't matter if you're the most qualified or not. Doesn't matter. We're just going to fill these slots. And you know something? I hope the NFL pays heartily for this in its viewership and in its reviews. I hope people find things to do or find other hobbies. I got to be honest with you. I stopped watching the NBA. I stopped watching the NFL. I would catch up with it by reading an article. Sometimes I'd listen to the radio during the Bills season. I don't want to put my money towards people that hate me. I don't want to give my money to people that hate me anymore, even if it's a product that I enjoy. The bifurcation is here, and you either support it or you don't. And you can, if you ream against it and yell about it, but then you give them your money or you give them your views, and you pay for a cable subscription and you watch the commercials, then, you can only say so much. And in the same vein, instead of creating something new, there's the snack. It's called Cracker Jacks. It's been years since I've had Cracker Jacks, but I think it's popcorn, caramel, and peanuts. And it was pretty good. I didn't eat it much because I remember when I was young, it would stick in my braces, and I just never ate it again after I grew up. But instead of making a new snack, well, Cracker Jill is here to celebrate women in sports. Now they're going to get rid of Cracker Jack, and they're moving along to Cracker Jill. Now, if they'd created something new, like chocolate, peanuts, and popcorn or something different than Cracker Jack, and they decided, okay, we're going to keep Cracker Jack, and now we've got Cracker Jill, I'm okay with that. Like, come out with a new product line. But no, what they do, they once again take something that had a little boy on the cover, and it's been sang in baseball sports since like 1918, a 100-year product, and they decide to change it to Cracker Jill to pander. And if it was my favorite snack in the world, I would no longer buy it. They said the introduction of Sailor Jack, the boy saluting us on the side of a Cracker Jack box, was no accident in 1918. The Chicago-based company that produced the famous snack was mired in multiple controversies. Its co-founder, blah, 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 history. They said there's no getting around it now. Frederick Ruckelheim was in desperate need of a total public relations reset for the good of his family, his company, and future generations. And that's where they came up with enter Sailor Jack, the patriotic boy, and his loyal dog, Bingo. The company apparently revamped the color scheme of the Cracker Jack box, too. It was now red, white, and blue, military flag, childhood, and mutts. So very American red, white, and blue, right? Very American product. And what have they decided to do with it? Well, now they're changing it to Cracker Jill. They say we're constantly inspired by the many women who are making history by breaking the mold. Stunning and brave. The Frito-Lay singles, so now it's the company, the chip company, Frito-Lay, I guess, that owns them now. And let me see if I can find the part of this. Part of Frito-Lay's Cracker Jill campaign includes a reworking of the Take Me Out to the Ball Game, the 1908 tune. Again, 120 years this thing has been around, 115 years. And it's been in baseball for decades and decades and decades and decades. And I have a clip of it here. They say it's worth noting that Cracker Jill is not the first female character created by the company that owns Cracker Jack. They, at some point, introduced a mascot named Miss Angelus, who is apparently Jack's sister. She pitched a marshmallow confection made by the company. She didn't stick around long. Cracker Jill apparently won't suffer the same fate. Why? Because they're getting rid of Cracker Jack. The intention is for all 5 Jills to continue to join Sailor Jack. Oh, so I guess they have a bunch of different box covers and a bunch of representation. So we've got the black Cracker Jill, maybe the Latina Cracker Jill, the blue-haired feminist Cracker Jill, the Asian Cracker Jill, and the blonde Cracker Jill. Okay, stunning and brave. Great. And what do they do the song? Here's a snippet of it.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jill. No one can stop you if you have the will. So let's root for.
So they literally just took out Cracker Jack and replaced it with Cracker Jill. And again, they're erasing history. They're erasing something that's been around for 100 years. Why not just come out and make a new product? Because they just need to. And maybe this is me being silly and nostalgic for all the changes. But when we're taking, if you look at Mrs. Buttersworth, that had, or maybe it was Aunt Jemima, the maple syrup, they literally took the woman of color off the label. They took a black woman and erased her. They did the same thing for Uncle Ben's. They say, oh, well, this is harmful. We need to take these pictures of these minority people off the products. Get rid of them. And The product still exists. They just took the pictures of minority representation off the covers. And with Land O'Lakes butter, they had the Native American girl kind of kneeling, holding out the butter, and in the background was the land of the lakes, the land. They removed the Native American woman and left the land. And the big joke is, of course, that they removed the Native American or the native from the land, and they literally did that. Well, this is just more of it, and the pandering at a certain point. I think there's only one of three ways you can go. You can either stop supporting this stuff with your money, find new hobbies, and eventually when that hobby gets taken, you have to find something else. So maybe don't watch sports on TV, and if you do, sail your pirate ship flag and go check it somewhere online at on something other than the normal news channels where you pay for it and get commercials. You boycott the products, which at this point probably is not a bad deal. Maybe I could only eat vegetables and fruit and certain brands of things because God knows I've gained a lot of weight. So maybe I can now get rid of Oreos and Coca-Cola and Woke-Cola and everything else, or step out of society. I don't know. And maybe I'm making a bigger deal out of this than this is. But when it's a little chunk of history, a song about a patriotic boy that's been around for 100 years, and now it's about a patriotic girl, and this product and that product. At a certain point, you either have to say I'm okay with this. It just is what it is. Or you have to say, I'm not going to give my money to this stuff anymore. You guys tell me what you think. Maybe I'm being overreactive. Maybe I'm just old man Joker yelling at the clouds in the sky now. But seeing everything that I've enjoyed throughout my life being rebranded and changed and erased. Imagine if they took a snack that's been like Girl Scout cookies. Imagine if they just renamed those Young Person Scout cookies and they erased girls from it. Wouldn't at some point they go, hey, you got to stop removing these people? It's just like the joke of every Disney movie that had a redhead in it. They've now replaced that with a minority or something else, and there's no more redheads. I mean, if you're a redhead, I'd be pretty upset about that. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I just wanted to, complain about this because it's just more forced something on people, and we're getting away from you're the best person for the job, and you're the smartest, and you're the brightest, and you work the hardest, and you have the best work ethic, and you're just the best person for the job. We've gotten away from that, and now you could be the best person for the job, but I'm sorry, you're not the right shade, or you're not the right gender, you're not the right this, not right that, so we're going to pass. And while I think of that, Walmart, I think it was, let me bring this up. I think they said they're now hiring new drivers. Yeah, here it is right here. And I wasn't planning to do this, but I thought Walmart increases truck driver salaries to over $100,000. And this is as of a couple days ago. With the U.S. dealing with nationwide shortage of truck drivers, they're upping it driver's salary of $110,000 a year. I think they said it requires a 12 week. Yeah, right here, 12-week training program. And they say the average salary for a long-haul driver is $55,000 a year. They're planning to double that number because they're so short. So, and they say that they were short $50,000. I did a story on a few months ago. Now they're short 80,000 drivers. So, something, the good takeaway from this is, hey, you know what? Everybody that goes out there and gets these fancy degrees and owes $200,000 in school costs and everything else, maybe you don't want to be a long-haul trucker. But I'll tell you, if you're a younger guy and you don't know what you want to do with your life, or you're working at one of these woke companies and you want to change the direction that you want to take your life's focus in, hey, if you're living out of a truck and you're driving a lot and you spend a couple of years on the roads when you're a young man and you can bank $110,000, and after you pay your taxes, maybe you keep, I don't know, 60 or 75 grand of it, and you tuck that away and you save that for 3-4 years, bang, there's a huge leg up on your investing for your future towards your retirement. Or maybe you can do like I did and buy a plot of land and put a little trailer or build something on there. Like, Same thing with the plumbers and the electricians and the HVAC and the roofers. And, those are jobs that are always going to be needed. Diversity coach at NFL, whatever, for a 1-year contract. It's a flavor of the month. I'm sure they'll replace it with somebody else at some point. They're going to, next thing you know, we have somebody that identifies as this and somebody that's this. And it's just the oppression Olympics. That's all it's turned out to be. All right, guys, if you're watching me on YouTube, make sure to join me over on betterbachelor.locals.com or on Rumble. That's where I do the dating profiles of the day. I don't have a dating profile of the day today. I didn't pull one up, and I'm in an angry mood. I wanted to rant, and I didn't feel like joking around about a dating profile of the day. But join me over there. We've got the forums, free speech forums. We've got, 10,000 memes over there now, a whole thread dedicated to memes making fun of the world. And you're free to talk about whatever you want. So join us over there, and you can become a supporter as well. We'll see you next time, guys. And remember, it doesn't matter who you are anymore. It's what do you look like? What do you represent? Who are you? And that's where we're going. And these companies are going to have a hard time when they hire these people based on characteristics like that, and they don't get the best, they don't get the hardest working, and they end up getting eaten or devoured from the inside out, like what's happening with Disney.